Hello everyone. So welcome to this new video. So after last night's class, I felt pretty bad about the constructor thing. It seemed like no one could really get it. Some people were grasping it, some weren't, and that's okay. I apologize. Maybe I should explain it better. So I tried to come up with a better way. Wrote a couple things just to try to come up with something that the concept might make more sense. So we're going to try this out. So I'm going to do this video, talk about the constructor a little bit, and then we can kind of go from there and see if there's any confusion, whatever. So once again, talk about what is a constructor. It's a special function like code, like a code block. So like the curly braces that we talked about. It's not a function, but it is which is used to initialize all necessary states of a class. So actually, I can write some of these things down here so that you could take notes if you want. Let's see, create a new document. Alright, let's see here. So I just said, what is a class? Or a constructor, duh. So I said it is a special function like block. Not a function though, but similar, which is used to initialize all necessary states of a class. Okay. Second thing that we could talk about, it has to have the same name as its hosting class. So I told you that it didn't, but it did, because I think Ben mentioned in class that like student has the same name. I wouldn't do that, and I agree with him, but I wasn't thinking right. It has to have the same name. So that's something different. I told you in class, which I was completely wrong. I made a mistake. So you have to have the same name. So when you're creating your constructor, whatever it's called, if it's called a fire truck, or if it's called inventory, or something like that, that has to be the same name. And we'll show you a demonstration, so it'll make more sense. It doesn't have a return type, like a void, int, a string. So for example, if I was doing a public static void main and we did a return, it wouldn't have a return type. If I was doing like a public string and I was looking to get some type of string value back, or a public int, it wouldn't have a return type. It's the first thing that runs when you instantiate an object. So when you write new, it's the first thing it's called. Every class you create has a constructor, even if you do not write it. So that is an example of some of these keys right here, that when you do that, you have that information. So another thing is, we asked, okay, why do we need a constructor? And that was one of the good question. And let's say, and what can I do inside a constructor? And hopefully this makes more sense. So we initialize, spell that right, all of the instant variables, or variables that need to be initialized before an object is created. And I'll show you why. So let's kind of go into the code. I'll go out of that for a second. I'll try to go back in there. So what we're going to do is, we have a package here called Constructor. So I'm going to create two classes real quick. I'm going to create one called my main class. My main class is going to consist of the main area, which will have like my public static void. So right now I'll call it main. So we have that created. Not going to do anything with it at the moment. Keep it like that. Hit save. Then I'm going to create another class In this class right here, we're going to call it cup. Okay, we're not going to choose this right here because this is going to be part of our, this is basically going to be our constructor in this class here. So we have our package up here, we have our class cup. So remember I mentioned before that within a constructor you initialize some instant variables. So we're going to use the word private, and these will be our instant variables. These are the variables that we could create and do stuff with them without the object being created. So we'll type private string name. We'll come up with another one, call it private string color. And we'll come up with one called private int capacity. So all I did here is I created these variables. One's called name, which will be the name of the cup. The other one's called the color, which will be the color of it. And capacity will be how many ounces or whatever the case is. Alright, so in order to create a constructor, let's put this here. In order to create a constructor, it's a function like block of code, like we mentioned before. Another thing is which the I'll just change this around here. The constructor has to have the same name as the class, in which we have it called cup and we have it called cup. So that works perfect. And that is one of the key things. I think one of the things that we talked about before, some of the students weren't unsure, like, okay, how are these two guys able to communicate? Well, right there we have the constructor, we have cup and main, and these guys are able to talk to each other because of that class right there, and you'll be able to see as we move on with this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create the constructor. So we're going to call it public, and we're going to call it what? Cup. So we're going to use the same name. Right now we're just going to do this. We're not going to put any inputs in there for now. We're just going to do a system message. So right now, for starters, we'll do, over here, we'll do system.out.println. We'll just do something. The cup name is sugar pie. Pretty simple. We'll just end it right there. We'll just do something simple right now. So all we did at this point, we created, save this. We created the cup, which is the constructor, and we created the main, which is nothing. So now we run it. It's going to run the constructor first, and as you see, I need to navigate that, change that real quick. Alright, so as you see here, I put system out println. So we have the constructor. As you see, it's just a public cup. It's not like a public void. Now if we run it, it's not going to work because there's nothing to run. The reason it's not able to run is we come over to our main area, we have nothing there. So even though the constructor is called first, it starts here, which is our main platform, because like in our programs when we write main static void, that's kind of where everything starts at. So what we need to do here is we need to call the constructor. So we're going to type in, okay, what's the constructor name? It's called cup, and it's also using this word cup Java. So what we're going to do is we're going to do cup, which is the name of the class and the constructor. So then you give it whatever your name you want to call it. So we're going to call it my cup equals new, and then we're going to do cup and then close it in bracket. So it looks like it's going to work. Now let's say if I put CUP like this, it's going to do a red line. You know why? Cannot be resolved. It doesn't know it, so it's giving me options to create an interface, a class, whatever. You want to make sure, because Java is sensitive, so you want to make sure it's right. So we'll put lowercase because we have the class and the so even if you over here in the class, we have the class is set up as CUP. Say and we have it here CUP. Let's say that we wanted to make it uppercase. We don't care. It's not going to work because it doesn't recognize it. So you have to make sure everything's on board. Now we did that. So cup is the name of the constructor. See how like I highlighted that, and it says ccac.cup. So it knew right away that it was ccac.cup because this is the main class. It was able to pick that up. You give it whatever name you want to give it, and then you say create new cup. It means that you're creating a new instance of that object, of that constructor. So now if we run it, it should print it. Okay, my cup name is Sugar Pie, and that's right, that is what we have here. Our cup name is Sugar Pie, and that's what we want to do. So the next thing that we're going to do is, you know how like we declare these guys up here, we're going to do a couple different things, okay? So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is we're going to accept string values. So let's start off with string, we'll call it cup name. We'll do string cup color. And we'll do string, actually we'll do int, we'll call it cup capacity. Okay, so also what I'm doing here is just to let you know, I'm declaring variable types. So we have a string, which is anything that you could send with quotation marks. So if I send something with like something, that's your string value. If I wanted to send a number, that would be like a number like 55. That's your integer, also known as the int. As you notice, I just gave it a 55. I don't have quotation marks in there, so that's going to work. That's just an example. And as you see here, it's going to accept these values. But what are we missing here? So now, if we run this, what's going to happen? It's going to blow up. See, it blew up. You know why it blew up? Now the messages are very generic. This is main.java 7. Alright, so right here is, what did we forget to do? We forgot to add pass parameter values. So we have to pass them in the right row. So we're saying, what's the name of the cup? So we'll do it in quotation marks. A couple different ways that we could do this. And I'll show you one way, easy way, and I'll show you a different way. So let's say that we called it Jeff's cup. Jeff's. Now we also need to pass the color of the cup. Let's call it purple. And then we need to pass a number, which is how many ounces is what's capacity. And we'll say 36. Well, that's a pretty big coffee cup. We'll just say 12. All right. Now, as you notice here, let's say I put like that. You see how it highlights it? Because it wants to get an integer, not a string. So it's telling me right here, change constructor string int. It tells me that that constructor is expecting an int, not a string. So we'll just put 12 here. All right, see how that works? Now we're accepting it, but we're going to have to change this around because it should run still, but it's not going to be exactly how we want it to do it. It's still going to say my cup of sugar pie, but we want to display the values that we're getting here. We want that to be in here. So let's change this up a little bit. So let's say that my cup name is, and we'll do, now we do this, and then we do the plus when we want to add something. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the name that we get in the variable type. So we got cup name down here, so we're going to add that. So then we're going to say plus, oops, and we're going to give us something. Say my cup name is, do comma, is Jeff's, and the color is, do a space. So when you pull out the sentence, they're separated, plus, and we'll put the value up here, cup color. So we're just grabbing the cup color up here. Then we're going to do plus, quotation mark, and say, and the capacity is plus another value, which is cup capacity, and we could do plus, and the capacity is, and will be 12, and we'll put ounces. That pretty much is it. And then what we'll do is we'll close it. And there you go. So now what should happen is when we display it, it should grab our values that we're passing in from over here on the page. So let's run that. As you see here, my cup name is Jeff's, and the color is purple. I guess I can't spell purple. And the capacity is 12 ounces. So let's spell purple right over here. Okay. All right, so now it says the purple. Here's another way that you can do it, is you could declare strings in here. Let's say that you're expecting something here. Let's say you wanted to say string, let's see here, cup name equals Jeff's. Okay, and then you did string cup color equals purple. Okay, and now we need string cup size, which we say capacity, equals 12. Okay, oops, called it a string, it's an int. Alright, so now we have that. What we can do is we could do something different. We could change that around and not do it that way, and we could just put the variable types name in, and we could have cup name, cup color, and cup capacity. If I can spell right. Capacity. Alright, there you go. See? And we'll see if it displays the same thing, because it's going to grab these values that we have up there and run with it. Look, same answer. So that's two different ways that we could do it. We declared the values up here. Method. Okay. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to change it up a little bit more. So now, let's see here, what are we going to do here? We're going to, oops, come down here. We're going to comment this out temporarily. And what we're going to do is, we're going to create our instant variables. You know how like we have name up here? We're going to create our instant variables, and I'll show you why. Because now, because you have these values up here, and you can use them anywhere on the screen. So you can use them anywhere in different methods. So we have this method called cup, but we might have another method, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's say right here, we have this method called name. So we're going to say name equals cup name. Why are we doing that? We're saying this guy up here that we declared earlier. Remember, this is the instant variable that we were able to create before the object was created. We're saying this object up here is going to equal the one that we passed in, cup name, and then that's being passed. That value is being passed from here. Okay, pretty simple. Then we're going to do color equals, what's the color? Cup color. Okay. Then we're going to do cup capacity. Well, we're going to do capacity at the top equals cup capacity. If I can spell right, it would be awesome. Alright, so now we got these guys declared. Now, what we're going to do here is, let me wipe this out. We're going to create another method. We're going to create our own method that does just displaying stuff. So we'll do a public void show my cup. Okay, so in this way, all we're going to do is let's print stuff out. So let's make life easier on me. I'm just going to copy this down here real quick. Copy that. We have to change it around a little bit. See, it's not going to work. You see how it doesn't. Oh, I have it commented out. All right. So these guys are not recognizable because you know what? They're over here, and this is in its own method, so it's not going to recognize it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the names up here, because these are variables that we use across the board. So look, name, it recognizes because it's a instant variable. It can be used anywhere. We'll put color here, and let's go over to capacity. It's over here somewhere. Let me move this out a little bit bigger. Make this capacity. Okay, and I think that's it right there. So, so we're forgetting one thing. So now we have to go back over here. Now we're calling that. So if I run that, here's what's going to happen. It's not going to work. It's going to be nothing. And the reason being is because now we don't have the display message here. We have show my cup, so we need to be able to call show my cup. So now what we need to do is we need to say, hey, we need to get over here after we'll run this and pass the values, but now in this constructor we need to call it. So how do we do it? We'll type in the value that we have right here. It's called my cup. So we'll type in my cup dot. Now you look here, when I did my cup, look at all the different values come up. These are different things that you can use, but in what we're looking to do is some of these are like wait long time as you look over to the lab. These are system things that we're doing. But in this case, we're going to do show my cup because that's what we want to do. It's a void. We click it. That's it. So now if we run it, look at that. My cup name is Jeff's, and the color is purple, and the capacity is 12 ounces. That is how the constructor works. What's beautiful about the constructor is you could come down here and create another constructor. You could say, all right, so I need to know this cup is going to be more specific. Let's say you wanted to create, well, if you wanted to create something else, you would create another constructor with a different name. But you could add on to this cup different things with the cup. You know, we just have capacity in here right now, but let's say that later on we want to say, all right, what else can be about this cup? We could say private inventory. So now we're thinking about what's the how many do we have? Okay, so what we would do here is we would say, all right, so now we need to pass in inventory. So we make an int because it's a number, and we would type in inventory here. All right, and then to add on to it, we just take inventory at the top, and oh, that was a bad. We call it cup inventory. Bad naming convention. You want to have inventory equals inventory. Then we have inventory equals cup inventory. Now while I'm thinking about it, let's think about the price. So we need a price. So we'd use a double, and we'd call it price. But down here we'd change it to something else like double. We'd call it cup price. Then what we do here is we add price in here equals cup price. Now we did all that. Now we have to come back over here. We have to create more values. So we could probably make life easier and use int inventory. So we could do int inventory equals how many do we have in inventory? So we'll say we have 3,954. All right. Now we also need the price. So we'll do a double price equals. We'll say that they cost $8.99. All right. So now we did that. Now we need to pass this over to the parameter because it's expecting the inventory. So we'll say inventory, and we'll say price. Pretty simple. Now if we run this, it should run, but it's not going to display our information down there because we didn't add anything yet. So maybe, if I could talk. Let's create a new row for this. So we can say system.out.println the inventory. Let's see, the amount of cups in inventory is, and I can't type. And then we'll do plus. And we'll add that inventory at the top because it can be used anywhere. And then we'll say plus the amount of cups in the inventory is, and the listed price is, and then we'll do space, and then we'll type the price because it's up there, and we'll end it. Do I have it right? Okay, see how it didn't work? Because I didn't do a plus. Perfect. Alright. So now let's run this and see what happens. There you go. The amount of cups in inventory is 3,954, and the listed price is $8.99. And we can make this a little bit more better looking. We could do this here, run it. We have the $8.99. So it gives you an example of how to do a constructor. this will be very helpful when you're building your constructor out, because now you have a better understanding of why to use a constructor, when you're using a constructor. So as we mentioned, it kind of validates that purpose. The common thing you do in a class constructor is, like we mentioned, is initialize your variables at the top with a private, instant variables, initialize them and validate them. And you see how everything's passed into the constructor. So hopefully this video was a lot more helpful than the exercise that we did in class yesterday. So please, once again, reach out to me if you don't understand this video. We could probably make it even easier, but hopefully this makes a lot more sense. I'd like to see you guys create some practice stuff and see if you could come up with this and understand what I'm doing. What I'll do is I'll take this code and I'll post it out on the Blackboard, and so that way we'll have it out there and you can play around with it as well. So if you have any questions, but what I would recommend is I'd watch my video and pause my video and create everything as I created it. That way you learn it from scratch. So once again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Thanks a lot for your time.